Good afternoon, students. In the last class, we discussed women's social reform movements in colonial India. As a part of women's social reform movements, we discussed the male reformers who tried, who contributed their life towards upliftment of women in India. Basically, these male reformers who supported the women movements, the organizations who challenged social evils in the Indian society. Basically, these male social reformers who started their life opposing these social evils in the Indian traditional system. We finally had a conversation over the Indian social reformers who oppose the hurdles faced by the women, basically from the Hindu traditional society, like the sati, child marriages, prohibition of widow remarriage, and many other social evils we find in the Hindu traditional society. Those were challenged by the male social reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Dayanand Saraswati, M.G. Ranade, R.G. Bhandarkar, um, and Malbari, D.K. Karve, uh, Kandukuri Veerashalingam Pantulu. Likewise, many social reformers their uh, contributed their service to eradicate these such evils in the Hindu traditional society. Okay, so all those things we discussed, and apart from these male social reformers, we had a conversation over the one or two female reformers from the Bengal, particularly from the family of Rabindranath Tagore, who started challenging these social evils and established such organizations to fight against the upliftment, fight against the evils in the society. Okay, so today we'll continue the same concept. And first of all, we have to be discuss on the things what happened in the Muslim society and who are the reformers which supported the emancipation of women in particularly the Islamic society. Okay, so we'll start with that, and then we'll continue the social reform movement in the women social reform movement in the colonial period. Okay, so when the Muslim women in India made a little progress in their position, both in the uh, pre-British period or the later British period. Okay, so Western education, the major vehicle of the progress during the British period, did not reach them, partly because of the existence of parada and seclusion of women from the external environment, and partly because education was considered inessential for them. Okay, so educated Muslims formed only a small segment of population in 19th century and were confined to urban areas in the country. Okay, so consequently, efforts in education and association formation among the Muslim women did not begin until the 20th century. Okay, so one notable exception being the Tabji family of Bombay. Okay, so Badruddin Tabji, who graduated from Elphinstone College, founded a Muslim self-help association in 1876, and his family relatives um and family and his family relatives were later active in starting a Muslim girls' school, where Amina Binte Badruddin Tyabji and running a girls' orphanage, which is Begum Nawale Misra, and starting nursing centers by the Sharifa Hamid Ali. Likewise, okay. So apart from these, the great pioneer in the Islamic Muslim social organizations, particularly for the women upliftment, which started by Aligarh, along with the Aligarh movement, who the Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and others who fought for the upliftment of women, particularly against the certain social evils like the parda, which followed in the Islamic society. Okay, so and the basically those the social reformers laid the social laid the foundation of the women's movement in India. And the social reform movement was the first attempt to remove the obstacles in the life of women. It created awareness among the people, and the woman must be liberated and be made equal with the men. Okay. So apart from that, when you see such movements, where particularly these Muslim society which find such a movements against these women traditions. Okay, so in 1916, Begum of Bhopal founded the All India Muslim Women's Conference with education of women as a prime agenda. And apart from provision of other remedial services for women and changing oppressive practices such as the polygamy. Okay, so we can cite many sub instances for instances or special cases where the individual women have been leaders in the struggle for women rights, but whose voice have been accounted for the patriarchal recording of history. Okay, so women leaders in nationalist phase, however, emerged from all small section of the urban middle class who had their education in English and invariably was in some way linked to movements or organized in the West. Okay, so the Women's Indian Association, which had links with the British Women's movement for suffrage, was started in 1917 by Margaret Cousins and Dorothy Jinardasa and Anvisen. And the National Council for Women, a branch of International Council of Women, was founded by Lady Tata and Lady Aberdeen in 1925. And in 1927, All India Women's Conference was set up by Margaret Cousins, which later merged with the Women's Indian Association in the 1920s. Okay, so according to the Geraldine Forbes, the first wave feminism in India. Okay, we already discussed about feminism in the last classes. and where the movement of feminism has started. Nearly two to three waves, which developed, which started in the European nations and North American, particularly in the USA, where these feminism, which turned into one to two waves, which mobilized all the women, basically in the world society. Okay, so in the same way, the same first wave we start in the USA, which entered in India. The first wave of feminism in India was the period between years 1880 to 1940. And at this time, several organizations formed women wings, which not only took up the cause of women, but gave women space and opportunity to secure the desired changes. Okay, so in 1904, Women's Wing was started in the National Social Conference, which later called the Indian Women's Conference. Okay, so the All Indian Women's Conference started branches in several smaller states in India, including Goa, where our case study, where we have to see about this women's movement is based on. Okay. So, however, if we are to go, what has been recorded more prominently in the mainstream, what are made to understand about the social reform movement of pre-independent India is that leaders were mostly men, and therefore even the early champions of the cause of women were men, and that during the 19th century social reform movement there was a preoccupation with protectionism. Okay. So, besides several issues that were taken up as concern for social reform, were in fact issues that exclusively benefited women of the upper social classes or those of from the higher caste. At this time, the issues concerning women's social emancipation that were prime on the agenda of social reformers were issues such as sati, the plight of widows, and polygamy, child marriage, and women's education. And these were some of the causes just taken up leaders such as Raja Rammohn Rai, Dayanand Saraswati, M.G. Ranade, others. Okay, so all these things we discussed in the last class. In 1887, M.G. Ranade established National Social Conference, which did have women's emancipation on its agenda, as he worked for the introduction of widow remarriage, for the abolishment of child marriage, and other issues like education for girls. Okay, so while the National Social Conference focused on the social issues, the Indian National Congress was concerned with the political administration. Uh, um, Between 1917-72 and 1947, the British introduced several laws which aimed to liberate women in India. Some of the laws prohibited practices such as the female